Would you like to reach our film and TV review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today. Welcome to filmandtvreview.com. Catch the latest film, TV and streamed show reviews every week. The views and opinions expressed by the authors and those providing comments are theirs alone. They do not reflect the views, opinions or position of Film and TV Review.com or their respective parent companies or affiliates. Film and TV Review.com makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information in this program and is for entertainment purposes only. Episodes may contain adult humor and language. For full terms and conditions, see Film and TV Review.com.
Hello there, and welcome to our, December-November edition of Film and TV Review. I'm joined by my regular hosts, James, Alfonso, Richard, and Andrew. And we're covering releases on film and TV that's happened in the last month or 6 weeks or so. Quite a lot of releases, actually, surprisingly. Gladiator 2, Wicked, Paddington, and the big seasonal releases, but there's quite a few to get through, and I think we'll kind of jump in. So hello there, and we'll start with a title that Richard and James have seen. It's Anora. Hi Richard.
Hi.
James. James, so you saw this, both of you. James, just give me what's Anora? And
So Anora is a drama from Sean Baker. It won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival this year, and it focuses on a girl called Anora, or she prefers to be known as Annie, who's a lap dancer in a American nightclub. She meets a young guy who is the son of a Russian oligarch, and they fall in love, and it's sort of, I think, quite a sweet love story. They then get married, and news that the son of this rich oligarch has actually married a sex worker. This reaches home, and the parents aren't very happy, and they send their heavies to try and get the marriage annulled. And I think it's a really good drama. It's very sort of like touching in places. It's very funny in places. I know Richard said it was kind of billed as a comedy in some places, and I think Google bills it as that. I don't think it is. It is a drama. I mean, it's from the guy who did the Florida Project. But there are moments of sort of comedy in it. I think particularly the heavies that come in are very sort of incompetent. They're like straight out of a Coen Brothers movie or something. It's got this really good soundtrack to it as well. There's this sort of euphoric Take That remix, which sounds like an odd match for a film like this, but it really works. And I think you are really swept up in the love story at the start of it. I won't go into, sounds like I've sort of said a lot of the plot, but that everything that sort of I say happens about probably in the first 20 to 30 minutes, and it then sort of takes a different turn. And there's sort of like tragedy in it and stuff as well. I think her name's Mikey Madison is the woman who plays Anora. I mean, she's quite young, and the Oscars tend to favour sort of older, sometimes seasoned actors and actresses to actually give the awards to. But I would be quite surprised if she's not nominated
Nominated,
for
yeah.
an
Nominated,
award
yeah.
for Best Actress, just because of how prominent she is in the drama. Also, there's sort of like characters in it that start off as sort of secondary characters that become quite main as the film goes on. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I saw it in a packed room, and it got a lot of laughs. It seemed to be going down well, and I really enjoyed it. It's probably one of my favorite films of the year. Yeah, so that's Sonora.
Yeah.
Richard, you saw this as well?
Yeah, to talk about the genre quickly, yeah, we talked about this quickly just because in France they called it a comedy slash romance, which was very strange because I didn't know anything about the movie. And I guess after half an hour, I was thinking, okay, I don't know why they said that. But anyway, now that's just a detail, doesn't matter. As a drama, I believe actually it was a very good movie if you see it as a drama. The love story that James mentioned about the main character who is a stripper and the son of this big boss or whatever, Russian boss, whatever. I think that is actually, in my opinion, I don't think it is the main storyline. The main storyline might be actually focusing, especially on the main character, is about her trying to get a better life, and in a way, like a lot of people in her 20s who are perhaps not doing so well or are not very high in the social ladder, they kind of they can see a glimpse of the best life they can ever have, like something they may have seen in movies, etc. And that's why she can see a dream in in her eyes. This guy is kind of the dream life that she maybe deserve, and that's why actually it becomes a drama, because obviously the love story doesn't go very well, and I won't go more into spoilers. So that's more this story that I think that I really focused on, and I really enjoyed because of her performance, and that's why I agree that the nomination for me, Oscar, Golden Globe, would not be surprising.
Anora, in my opinion, it's like a modern Pretty Woman. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're right.
It starts very much like Pretty Woman.
Yeah, it's true. But in Pretty Woman, it was, I don't know if it's because of the decade it was released, of the 90s, now in 2020s, it was very standard story, let's say. Pretty Woman here is definitely not standard. What I mean is that, as I said, I think there is more depth, more layers about this character.
Totally.
Of the female character. And the last scene, again, no spoiler, I'm just going to say actually the last scene, because it's a drama, it literally made me cry. Honestly, I think that the last shot actually made me cry, and it was really well done. And you're talking about a supporting character who will remain nameless, is a Russian actor, and honestly, he doesn't do much. He doesn't have a lot of talking, but he's pretty amazing in this movie.
And that could have fallen down. That could have not worked on paper, because there was a point where I was like, I think they're going to go in that direction, but then I thought they wouldn't, because and they kind of addressed that, and by the time it happens, it's good. But it's a memorable ending. I wasn't sure about it to start with, but because it seems slightly tonally different. I mean, the film has got a lot of tones anyway, but it kind of takes you by surprise. It's maybe not the obvious ending to go with, but and I think it reminded me a little bit of Banshees of Inisherin, that I think when I've spoken to people, some people see it as an up ending, a good ending. Some people see it as maybe a more melancholy ending. And I think I might have a different reaction next time I see it as well. But yeah.
I was all the time during this film. It felt a little bit like a suspense film for me, because I never knew the tone that it was going to take. Like you say with the Banshees of Inisherin, but in this case, I felt for the protagonist. I felt for Anora. So I was like, what in the world is going to happen to this girl? I was like, what is good Sean Baker going to do with her? Anyway.
Okay. All right. Quite interesting title. Right. Well, next, a big, long. Well, I was going to say long-awaited sequel, but I don't think it was really awaited.
No.
Yeah, this is what you said about Hugh Jackman coming back. It's long-awaited. Nobody was waiting for him to come back. We thought he was dead. Like nobody thought there was going to be Gladiator.
Just going by
apparently, it was long-awaited by Ridley Scott and only Ridley Scott. For the interviews, apparently he's the only one who wanted to do this thing for 20 years. So, yeah.
The mystery title, in case you're wondering, is actually, of course, Gladiator 2, I guess a sequel to the huge Russell Crowe classic. I think that was 1999. I'm not sure. I think
2000. I think
something
2000.
later.
I would say 2000.
2000, yeah.
I think.
I thought it was, yeah.
But a great film, and it did show that Ridley Scott does know how to use a camera, and but this does it live up to quite that classic? I mean, it's a long shadow to cast, but Richard James Alfonso, you saw Gladiator 2.
I'll do the synopsis on this one, but I swear I will try to be a normal synopsis, and then I will give my judgment on the second part.
What is?
Okay, so the synopsis is literally, and by the way, spoiler alert, because straight away I cannot avoid a spoiler straight in the synopsis. So it is, I think, something like 15 or 16 years later after the end of Gladiator. If you haven't seen Gladiator, it's been 20 years, so I can tell you, but at the end of Gladiator, Maximus dies. Sorry. So at the end of Gladiator, Maximus dies, and technically, he was actually the one with his death. He was supposed actually to bring to Rome the dream of Mark Aurelius, which is to give the power to, in a way, for ancient times, to the people through the Senate. But now we are 16 years later, and apparently it didn't work, because now there are two, I don't know if they are twins, but two strange emperors, brothers, who are ruling. I don't know if they are twins. I don't remember.
They're not twins.
I don't think they are twins, but anyway. But there are brothers who are ruling, like, I don't know if it's worse than Commodus in the first movie, or just we don't know what they're doing, or they are clearly incompetent. And they are helped by a lot of very important men of influence, especially
and
one.
A monkey.
I forgot the name, played by Denzel Washington, who is definitely the highlight of the movie. And the conquest of Rome, of the Roman Empire, is doing very well, thanks to one of the general, played by Pedro Pascal, who is kind of the Maximus of his generation, because he has kind of the same vibe in him. He's a very popular general in his army. He's very charismatic with his soldiers, and also he kind of have the same ideology. And then, for some reason, sorry, sorry, I said that I was not given in the judgment. And then there is another character played by this British actor, but I didn't know until then, but apparently he's a very good actor, by the way, called Mescal, is that it? If I'm not mistaken, his last name. And he is, so spoiler alert again, he is the son of Maximus and of Commodus' sister, but because apparently Maximus and this woman had an affair that we were not aware of in the first movie. And that kid that we saw in the first movie, that's him. That kid in the first movie who met Maximus is his son. I didn't see it coming, but okay. Anyway, so these kids, after the death of, I don't remember if it's after the death of Maximus or the death of Marcus Aurelius. No, I think after the death of Maximus, I think his mother thought that he would be in danger. So she asked a friend of hers to take him and to send him away as far away as possible from Rome. And this kid becomes the kind of hero of Gladiator 2. And he lived his own life far away from Rome, far away from the politics, under another name. He became kind of a leader of Numidia army, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of a group of mercenaries as well. And he's trying to be kind of as influential as Maximus used to be, but he's not. And one way or another, he's going to be going back to Rome, and he's going to try to do something. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why he goes to Rome. I don't know why exactly what was the point of this character. So that's my point. And I'm finished on this. this movie is not a sequel for me. It tries to be a remake, but it's a cheap remake. It costs like 3 times more than Gladiator, possibly. But for me, it's a cheap remake because, in a way, you have all these two characters who try to be Russell Crowe, Pedro Pascal, and this guy. This guy failed miserably, I'm sorry to say, but it's nothing to do with his career. I'm pretty sure he's a great actor, and I hope that this will not be a stain in his career. But this is not. I'm sorry, but it's not good as what he's been given. Pedro Pascal. The movie should have been focused on Pedro Pascal, because if they want to do a cheap remake, Pedro Pascal character could have been very interesting, but unfortunately it wasn't. Pedro Pascal actually is, I don't know, he's just a supporter character. Or do a movie about Denzel Washington, about the politics of Rome, about how an influential guy can climb the social ladder. I was thinking Denzel Washington is kind of, Littlefinger in Game of Thrones. He's kind of a guy who has absolutely no values, no principles, and he will do anything to reach the top. And he comes from very low social status. And I thought it was played very well, and it was very interesting. But unfortunately, again, it's also a supporting character. We focus too much time on this new guy, and yeah, it's a shame.
You haven't focused at all in the animals. Like we have Dundas, of course.
Dundas.
And you have all the other animals.
I wanted to let you, Alfonso, talk about Dundas. Go ahead. Okay.
Dundas is the real star of the movie. Richard hasn't spoken about him. I don't know what movie he saw, but Dundas is the real star of this one. The monkey of the two emperors.
100% going to be at the Oscars. He's definitely going to be at the Oscars.
And he's in good company with all these CGI animals that come from time to time to try to kill as many gladiators as possible. And I thought it was a lot of fun. I liked it. I liked it even more than the first one. Myself. I wasn't expecting a duplication of the things that made the first one special, because I think the first one is very iconic. So I guess Paul Mescal cannot step into the shoes of Russell Crowe, because he's like more of the Joaquin Phoenix style of acting anyway. So it's like a gladiator for a new generation, more like sensitive, more stuff. But Pascal, as you said, symbolizes the more Russell Crowe kind of brooding type. He's like another kind of brooding type Paul Mescal in this film, and and I like it because it had many battles with CGI animals, which never hurts, and there were twists and turns, and I liked how the Denzel Washington character develops. And although this movie is gore, it has all kinds of scenes to make you scream, like you be like. Almost none of them affected me, but one, which did affect me, was like, ugh. I'm sure there were parents taking out their children outside of the screenings, because this is not your gladiator for everybody. This is your glad blood, actually, and that's what I would say.
Hey, James, what's your take on that one? Quite mixed opinion.
Well, I think Richard did a fantastic summary of the plot. But if you'd have asked me what the plot is, I'd have said the plot was rah, cut some heads off, rah, CGI monkey, dog monkeys, and then rah, Denzel Washington does some cool acting. And I had no, to be honest, I wasn't really even paying attention to the plot, and I really enjoyed it, and I didn't think that I would. I kept thinking about Napoleon, because obviously when that come out, I felt he was trying to do like a historical biopic, Ridley Scott, and it didn't work, and it fell far short of that. But the bits that worked for me in that film, the only bits that worked, and there were too few of them, were the battle scenes, and the scale of the battle scenes, how good those scenes, the whole spectacle of them. And I feel like maybe this film is that Ridley Scott's gone, oh, that worked in that, I'll just do that. And it wouldn't even surprise, I mean, it is linked to the first film, but it could just as easily not have been. I would say as well, if you haven't seen Gladiator 1, this does work as a standalone, because I haven't seen Gladiator since 2000, and I didn't get to rewatch it, and it completely made sense to me, because there are sort of moments of flashbacks from the first film that fill in those gaps. So this could equally have just been a similar remake called something else. But I thought the action scenes were the main attraction, really. And yeah, the scale, the sort of epicness of it. I do think I thought Paul Mescal was fine. Denzel Washington's really good. I thought Pedro Pascal just wasn't given anything to do, really. I won't ruin it, but there is a moment, maybe 45, 50 minutes from the end, where something happens that I didn't think would happen. I was like, oh, where's this going to go now? And I kind of like that I was like, oh, this film isn't over, but this is going somewhere else now. And there was a lot of faces from British TV as well. So Captain Darling from Blackadder, Tim McHenry is in it. Matt Lucas is in it. Derek Jacobi, who's done a lot of films. But I thought it, as a blockbuster, I thought it ticked all the boxes.
Yeah, okay. It does seem that it is. I mean, Ridley Scott. I think when his talent is always apparent, but he just depending on the script that he has. So, I as a spectacle, you kind of you can always count on him to deliver. So probably for cinema, what it is nowadays, maybe that's all it kind of needs. So I guess it will be proving. It probably will prove popular during this season where you just want something out of the, let's say, your Thanksgiving or your pre-Christmas dinner. But okay, very mixed though, very mixed, but maybe better than I thought from what I hear, surprisingly. Right, next, a return to a well-loved series, certainly from word of mouth, which I haven't seen, but Richard, you have, and that's Arcane season 2.
Yeah.
Hit the small screen.
Yeah.
Richard,
So it is
for those not familiar with Arcane, just give me an idea of what it is. I know it's an animated show.
Yeah, it is the moment in the podcast where I can be very proud of Friends.
Oh.
Because that's the only moment about the list of things we're going to talk about where actually Friends is represented. So yeah, because Arcane is an animated TV show, as you said, on Netflix, set within the world of probably one of the most played game currently, League of Legends. League of Legends, I never played it, so you don't need to play League of Legends. It's just set within the universe, so you don't need to have any prior information. But it is created and produced by a French animation studio called Fortiche. I'm pretty sure actually that's not gonna last time we're gonna hear from them, although Arcane is now over because it was only a 2 seasons show. But with what they've done here, which is pretty amazing work, I'm pretty sure actually that they will have a long career ahead of them. So yeah, Arcane, in a nutshell, it's a 2 season show, as I was saying. A couple of years ago, it was the first season. Cost a lot of money. 6 years writing to do the first season only. And in a way, it's kind of a story of 2 sisters, Vi and Powder, who's going to become Jinx, but are living in the, let's say, the suburbs, the poor suburbs in the world, where it's divided in 2. The poor suburbs are below the surface, let's say, and on the top you have like the elites, and they are just with a group of friends. I would just say the beginning of the show, a group of friends actually doing what group of friends do, but also stealing a few things, etc., but nothing criminal, but just as teenagers unfortunately do, etc. And a lot of dramatic events will change their lives to them, but to the whole world. And that will involve a drug that will spread across the society. That will also, there will also be magical elements changing the way actually the society will evolve, and it will also change the fate of the society. And yeah, and I won't say more, but yeah. The main strength of this show, and that's why actually it is so well reviewed and very popular. As I said, it's the animation. It's extremely well done. Within the same episode, you can have different ways of animation in the same episode. You can even the story as it is told, it's kind of a bit original, because prior to the opening credits, you also always have a scene that is kind of connected to the rest of the episode, but not really, but gives you background to the mythology of the show. The characters, although they are animated, they feel so human that you feel connected to them, and not only the two main characters, but there's a lot of supporting characters. The music is extraordinary. The theme is by Imagine Dragons. It's hard for me to explain how it's great if you haven't seen it, because obviously a lot of things that are great are through the visuals because it's an animated show. But at the same time, it is so well done. But again, but you forget sometimes it's animated. And in a way, I think that Arcane is in the era where video games are such a big influence to movies and TV shows. It is, in a way, for me, it is the example to follow for any other projects in the future. I hope it will be the example to follow. What I mean is that it is not a strict adaptation of a video game, which would be useless, in my opinion. Completely, what's the point of adapting a very good video game? It's already a great cultural thing, a video game. If you want to create something new, use a universe that has a lot, great mythology, and try to create something kind of original that will appeal to anyone, even video gamers or people who have never heard of it. And that's what Arcane is doing. And that's why it's a huge success. I never played this game and I enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure that you guys might enjoy it as well. And you never heard the video game and you might never play the video game because kind of don't care that it is within the League of Legends. In a way, visually, it could remind you of very beautiful video game cinematics, but on a higher level, because Riot Games, who are with the guys behind League of Legends, they spent a fortune on this show. They're talking about $250 million or $300 million perhaps on 2 seasons only. And that's why the show is concluded. If they just had 2 seasons, there's a beginning, a middle, and the end. It's kind of a mini series of 18 episodes. And it's worth it because I just finished it yesterday. And the conclusion is, it's actually a good conclusion. They conclude all the storylines. There is a bit of an opening, but kind of irrelevant. It goes in different parts of this world, the more personal storylines of the main characters, and very emotional ones, the grander mythology about the fate of the world, and they mix it up very well. I think it's an amazing show, visually and great writing, honestly.
Right, thanks, Richard. Yes, from everyone I've talked to, it's huge, great. They just sing its praises, kind of very great word of mouth, which is kind of like how we kind of pick those next big series. But Arcane, even from season 1, season 2, everyone just says you have to watch it. So yeah, okay, thanks, Richard. Right, next, for me, a bit of a guilty pleasure. I would say again, like you said, a proper conclusion to a not long running, but a saga of a trilogy of films, which is, of course, Venom 3. Tom Hardy reprises his role as a kind of, at least in the Marvel universe, the kind of like a symbiote of Venom and Tom Hardy. So kind of like a buddy cop kind of like framework to the Venom saga. First film worked quite well, and second one maybe not so, but Venom 3, I saw this. I kind of enjoyed it, I have to say. See, James, Alfonso, you saw Venom. You on board with this? I actually liked it, and I think it concluded quite well as well. But am I on my own here?
I just want to do that. I haven't seen it. No, sorry.
Sorry. Alfonso, you saw this.
Yeah, I saw this. Well, I was invested because it actually was in the shooting when they shot in my region of Spain. So I went and watched the exterior of the canteen in Mexico when the movie starts, that and the whole Mexico that was neighborhood in Cartagena in Spain. So I was there and I saw those streets and then after that watching a big alien monster crawl through those streets. That was quite crazy when I saw the film finished. It was, I don't know, the main plot is basically Venom gets there's somebody out in like a dark lord of all planets that wants something that only can have if he gets it from inside of Venom / Tom Hardy, something like that.
It's the codex. You obviously were not paying attention to the
No,
plot.
I wasn't. I wasn't paying attention to the specifics.
Let's
I
be
would.
well. Yes, I think from what I gathered, I think when a host, which is Eddie Brock, dies, and a symbiote who he's kind of bonded to, he dies. He is brought back to life. They release a codex, which I guess gives them the power to release this big dark overlord. So it's basically a
The
invasion
key.
story. Yeah. Oh, the key. Yes. So
It's like a key.
it is
He's
like
a trap, and he needs a key.
but I mean, along the way, it's always kind of like the strength of these movies is the kind of like the interplay between Venom. I mean, he does the voice of Venom of this symbiote and Tom Hardy, so it's kind of like always a bit of tongue in cheek going through this. But
Yeah,
did you
quite
enjoy
quite
it?
tongue in cheek.
Yeah,
I did have a like. I would say. I mean, compared to, for example, Gladiator and Wicked, it's not my lesser, let's say, blockbuster of the month, but it was an entertaining time. Always enjoy the symbiotes kind of things with the special effects and everything. I just thought the tongue-in-cheek of Venom went a little bit too far because he's like, oh, the whole world depends on me not being with you, the whole becoming Venom and everything. And well, it's a spoiler, so spoilers. But at some point, he does throw all that out of the window, like but because of a very particular, stupid, trivial reason that he didn't have to do at all. It's not like he was sacrificing something that he had to choose between the bad and the worst. No. He actually calls everybody or the bad guys and creates a lot of mess for everybody. That the whole third act becomes because Venom wants to dance, basically.
This is true. Yes, this is true. He gets discovered once he exposes himself, but he can't resist.
Yeah, I forgot about that scene. Yes,
Key. Was I the only one paying attention to this?
Well, that is the key scene that like makes everything go into the third act and just chaos.
Yeah.
Yes, he gets as soon as he emerges, but only because he can't resist the urge to dance with his
this film is just the lyrics from "I Love to Love" by Tina Charles.
It's
he just wants to dance.
It is like that. He wants to dance, and that attracts basically the space monster has a target on Venom. He can only see Venom when he is Venom and when he is completely Venom. But once he sees him, he can be anywhere in 2 minutes. He's like that fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I think it's just well put together. It doesn't outstay its welcome. It's fun. I think it just knows that it's having fun and it's not pretentious. So it's kind of like it worked. The second movie I thought just got a bit too messy, but this one kind of like just brings it in and kind of ends in a very good place which very rare for a franchise. It's kind of like I can end.
It was decent.
The rumor is there's going to be a fourth one now, so
yes, there probably will be.
Oh
no, I don't think so.
Well, you see what happened. You see what happened in the third act.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, does it? It's if it makes enough money, the studio just wants another one. So I'm sure they'll pay Tom Hardy enough to do it.
Dangerous type thing, and they have Craven coming out next month. So,
yeah. No, but isn't that the plan? Isn't that to have kind of a crossover? No, I'm not joking, but I mean not the crossover, but
for six thing.
Okay, spoiler alert! Whoever wants to avoid spoilers for Venom 3. There is the bad guy in Venom 3 is the guy kind of entity who was there before the universe. I don't remember his name. Who created the sequence.
Oh no, you mean
no? Yeah, isn't that
no? They mentioned
to have Null to come and be a bad guy later on in like Spider-Man 4 or something?
Well,
never-
the
No,
rumors.
Possibly.
Yes,
Yes.
rumors. Yeah, it's only rumors, but just because Spider-Man 4 might have, because the symbiote stuff, full spoilers by the way, the symbiote black stuff there is some kind of, in the movie, if I'm not mistaken, there is a scene where some of it is left on Earth,
Yes, yeah.
Oh, No Way
and
Home.
and they are stupid theories against. You're right, it's only rumors and nothing confirmed, obviously.
Well, I was going to say,
You
I
might
think
have the
I
black
assumed
suit, Spider-Man in Spider-Man. Yeah.
I assumed that's where they were going to go, and maybe that's what was holding up Spider-Man 4 is they wanted to do Spider-Man versus Venom. But the stronger rumors are now, and it looks like it because of the scheduling, that really Spider-Man 4 is going to be to do with Avengers 5. It's going to be very closely linked to that, and that would probably make more financial sense when they announced it.
Okay.
Venom 3's done okay. It hasn't done brilliantly, but it hasn't done terribly. But it would make more sense
Okay.
for them to link it in with
It's only
Avengers
theories,
5, I would
of
guess.
course.
I mean, it could do both. Could do both.
Right. Next. More, I think I don't know if this is going to be the last output, but this is, I think, Clint Eastwood directed movie Juror, The Juror, or Juror 2.
I don't know how to pronounce it in English, by the way.
Juror
Juror
number 2.
two.
It's called
How do you
Juror
that.
say
number
it?
two.
Juror?
Yeah, The
Juror.
Juror. Yeah, sorry. It's me on the wine.
It just sounds weird now.
Yeah, it does
Juror.
sound weird.
Juror.
Yeah.
It's well, Clint Eastwood directed movie. I don't know if it's going to be his last one, but
Well,
he's always
90
We thought that
in hands.
We
but-
thought that with Gran Torino, and that was like 2008.
Yeah, you'll
He'll
keep
be
going.
knocking these out in 30 years.
I'm sure. Richard, you and maybe Alfonso,
me
you
and
saw
Alfonso,
this.
yeah.
Juror 2. It sounds like a John Grisham kind of like knockoff, but it's what is
That's a good point. Yeah.
The juror always knocks
Juror number
twice.
2?
Good time,
So
please.
give us a
In
bit
fact,
of.
by the way, he's 94 years old. I just checked. So, but unfortunately, it's a good chance it's his last movie, to be honest.
Well, don't count him out yet.
He's probably going to go and lead the Republican Party next. Sorry, Democrat Party. That would have been funnier if I got the name of the party right.
I want another Dirty Harry sequel. Just one more. But anyway, augmented suit or something. Right. So, Richard, you saw this.
Yeah.
What is?
So Juror 2 is the genre would be, I guess, a legal thriller film, I would say, since most of it is set during a trial, to make you understand what the movie is about without going too much into spoilers. It's kind of a 21st century remake, but not a remake, but in a way, a kind of remake of 12 Angry Men, but not really, but in a way, because in a way it is clearly the focus is on a group of juries or jurors or whatever, and specifically one played by Nicholas Hoult, and they have to judge, I guess, one guy to say if he's innocent or guilty of killing a woman in the middle of the night, I don't know, 1 or 2 years before the movie is set. I think it's a good. I don't want to go into spoilers because there are more spoilers. And the movie is focused more on Nicholas Hoult, who is juror number 2. That's the name of the movie.
He has a dilemma.
Nicholas Hoult, you can see the trial through his eyes, and you will see that his personal life might be more interesting than it looks.
Yeah,
That's how I'll put it.
Being the juror poses, he didn't know that when he was chosen as a juror, Nicholas Hoult didn't know that as soon as the trial started, he was going to be in a dilemma, very big dilemma. So the movie is about that dilemma and how it develops both inside of his private life and in the jury and in the other characters get involved. But that's the movie. I mean, it's one of these films about trials. I wouldn't say that it's a thriller. It can have a little bit of a thriller elements sometimes, but it's basically about a character trying to know what to do Anyway,
It's like, honestly, it's very hard not to say more because there is a lot of things that might spoil a big thing. James was saying that there's it's a lot of is giving away in the trailer. Possibly, if you haven't seen the trailer, it's better in my opinion.
yeah.
Because
Because the movie itself is that question that is
Yeah.
posed.
Let's just say that
He
the
may
main actor-
he may have
Sorry.
some link to the trial is basically
Yeah.
the thing, isn't it?
And the main character is kind of an interesting dilemma, for lack of a better word, because you don't know if the main character is a good or a bad guy, and in a way, it is kind of this question mark to define if this guy is independently from the trial, if the main guy you're following the main storyline, how the audience will react. You yourself, as an audience member, how would you react to this guy if this really happens and if you knew the full story? And I think that's how the movie is the most interesting part of the movie. Is this part is kind of playing with this with a kind of interactive game with the audience, I think. And in a way, the character played by Toni Collette is us. That's how I felt anyway. Is how do you react? How do you judge the main character? Is it? Do I give spoilers by saying that? Or
I don't think so. I don't think so. By the end, maybe she is. J.K. Simmons as well is really good in this. When he's in it, he's not like got the biggest part, but he's got quite a key role as well. And there's a point where I thought that he might be, but you're right. Nicholas Hoult, I assume is Bill Top. I can't remember, but you kind of follow him, and he's the protagonist. But as it goes on, I was like, I don't know if I like this. And he's not unlikable. It's just like, is he a bit selfish? Well, I think he is. And it's so it probably deals in a more ambiguous moral area than most thrillers. And I mean, to be honest, I wasn't. I thought it was okay. But actually, hearing you talk about it, Richard, so maybe I may have been a bit down on this. Maybe it's doing something a bit more interesting than I'm giving it credit for. I will say I thought the last shot was brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what it is, but something happens, and I was like, don't give this the Blade Runner voiceover. Don't give us like the exposition dialogue.
Cuts.
We don't need it. Please,
cuts.
Yeah, just cut because it's all done with the looks from the people, and you get what is going on. You know what's happening next, and the film ends, and it's a really strong ending. I thought, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I didn't like how it made me feel, but
Yeah, you didn't like how it made you feel.
I didn't like how it made me feel.
I almost ruined the film because I said,
have
you done what Nicholas Holt's done? Is that why?
I hope not. Yeah.
No, but I didn't like to be in his shoes for the film. I wasn't. It made me feel like with anguish.
Intriguing. Next, the big screen adaptation of the hugely successful stage musical Wicked hits us finally. I think this is part one of the stage show. Part two follows in a few months. A lot of hype leading up to this. Let's see, Alfonso, Andrew, and James, you saw this. Did it meet expectations, or even if you hadn't seen the musical, is it worth the very long running time, from what I gather? Andrew, what's your opinion on that? On Wicked?
Yeah, I didn't really notice the long running time because it goes at a good pace. I mean, yeah, you could have films that are shorter that seem like they're long, and films that are longer that go by pretty quickly. This goes a good pace. Part of it is that it is a musical, so some of that runtime is taken up by the musical numbers. That is what it is. And, it shouldn't be a surprise. And I hadn't seen in person the stage production because it's very hard to get tickets. They go very quickly. But I have watched on YouTube. I guess it was a North American touring company, and I happened to catch it on YouTube, and so I had an idea of what happens in the story, and there are some kind of reveals across the story. So this is an adaptation of Act One. Part one is an adaptation of Act One, more or less, and then next November, I guess Part Two will be an adaptation of Act Two. again, more or less. And the way that it works out is that a lot of the songs that people are very familiar with happen in the first act, like Defying Gravity and Popular, and I guess like The Wizard and I, among other songs. So, yeah, I mean, I think what adapting from one medium to another, what that did is it allowed for a chance to have some more of a backstory, at least for Elphaba. You get a little bit more of her backstory. I mean, you know it from the stage musical, from theater, but here you actually get a chance to see it and see a bit more of her background. You can understand where she's coming from and why she makes the decisions that she does, which you may get an idea anyway without those scenes, but now you get definitely an idea like, oh, okay, now I understand why she takes the actions that she does. To basically sum up what happens in this part, or part one, it's basically, I guess there's like a framing device. So it's somewhat adapted from The Wizard of Oz. Well, it's adapted from a stage show, which in turn is adapted from a novel from the 90s, and that in turn is sort of an adaptation of the L. Frank Baum novels that he did well over a century ago about The Wizard of Oz and all that. Yeah, I know it's a lot of adapting from one medium to one medium. So people think of this franchise, they think of the 1939 film with Judy Garland. This is maybe a little bit closer to what the original novel was. So the film opens with kind of a framing device, the story of, oh, the Wicked Witch of the West has been defeated, and Glinda the Good Witch comes, and everyone's celebrating. And then Glinda tells the story of what actually happened. And so then when you get a flashback to when Glinda and the other witch, whose name's actually Elphaba, when they met and ultimately became friends at school. And it's a school with a lot of different subjects. And Elphaba comes, and she comes with her sister. Elphaba has a younger sister who's in a wheelchair, and their father is the governor of Munchkinland. And so you have all these other without going into too many other things, because there's a lot of stuff that happens, certainly. Even if you distract the long running time, it's just, there's a lot going on. There's apparently something going on in the land of Oz regarding the animal population and their ability to have sentience, or basically their ability to speak, or to have, they're being more and more treated like second-class citizens, basically. And stuff is happening with them, and that becomes more and more a significant part of the plot and what really drives the story, at least for one of the characters. So the idea of this conspiracy and what's really going on, and who's really behind what's really behind it all. So yeah, it's definitely a good, richer story than just what you may have thought you saw in earlier versions of like The Wizard of Oz. People just have the 1939 film in mind. There's actually a lot more going on here. And the musical numbers, yeah, they're good. I mean, all the different performers, they do a pretty good job. And then, of course, Cynthia Erivo does really, really good job with the songs she does, like The Wizard and I, and, of course, Defying Gravity, which is the pivotal moment during the climax. So it certainly leaves you wanting to see what happens. I mean, if you know the story, you already know what happens in part 2 or act 2, but it leaves you wanting to see what happens next. So yeah. I mean, it was pretty good, and it helped also that I saw a special advanced screening where people were kind of into it. They weren't singing along, but some of them were dressed in costume, and certain people were kind of gasping at certain moments. Some of the cameos in particular, you could probably guess what those cameos are if you know anything about this franchise. But yeah. No, I thought it was pretty good. So
It's quite interesting. Alfonso, James, you saw this? Enjoyable?
I am in love with this film. I love it. I thought it was so fun. It's very rewatchable. It's very entertaining from start to finish. The acting is for example, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande is spectacular. They both sing spectacularly well. The casting, like forgot about who was the biggest star and just put everybody who needed to be there. And they are very good singers, but they are also very good actresses. Like Cynthia Erivo gets emotion out of the screen. She mixes that thing. And Ariana Grande is a comedic surprise. Well, not so much a surprise because she had done Saturday Night Live and she has been in Nickelodeon, like this comedy series from when she was young. But yeah, it's a great time at the movies. I mean, and it's doing great numbers at the box office, deservedly so, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Right. James, you concur? You've seen this, definitely.
Yeah, I think Alfonso and Andrew said it already. I did think, in a way, sort of Gladiator 2 opening one weekend here in the UK and then Wicked the weekend after is maybe the nearest we could get to the Barbie Oppenheimer kind of moment from last year, a very sort of macho film and sort of a very funny, creative film. I thought Wicked was, so I was aware of the stage play. I've never seen it. Been seeing this trailer for what feels like forever. But certainly, I completely agree with Andrew. It does not feel like 2 hours 40. And I am someone who's always complained about long films. There might be there's one moment I think where they went from one song into another song, and that kind of, to me, I felt like, they should have put something in the middle there. But that's me being very picky. The pace of it's really good. The spectacle of it is amazing. So much of it is done practically and on set. So they've built a lot of the sets and things. There are obviously CGI creations. The themes that you're talking about because it's talking about prejudice, isn't it? But it's in this sort of fantastical world of animals being sort of kept down and things. But yeah, it's a really good time. I laughed a lot as well. Like, I mean, it's 2 hours 40, right? So you would hope some of the jokes land. But I certainly laughed a lot. I even laughed at the lyrics of one of the songs that me and Alfonso were talking about in the chat, the one about loathing, which is kind of like got like a dark sort of undertone to the humor. But yeah, I thought it was really good. Really looking forward to part 2.
I have one question. Just wondering, the box office, the budget is nothing. I mean, I was checking this actually while you were talking, guys. I wonder because the budget is apparently only 145 million for part 1 and 145 million for part 2, roughly. Do you see it on the screen? I mean, what I mean is that actually, but nowadays these movies the budget makes no sense anymore. 300.
Can I say because we were talking about Gladiator, so I think Gladiator was hit. I keep talking about us coming out of COVID, and a lot of the things that hit in the screen were things that had to go through COVID. So there were shutdowns and there was lots of testing. But actually, with Gladiator 2, that was hit by the writer's strike, so that caused a lot of ballooning. I think though we are in a point where you just have to be smarter with budgets. I think if you want to make that money back. That to me is incredible, though. That's 100. If that's right, that's 145.
That's what it says.
I assume these were shot back to back, but yeah, it looks fantastic.
Okay. But that's also the reason they were shot back to back in the same settings. Settings that don't change for part 1 and 2. It's basically in a school like the Harry Potter kind of like it's witches magicians school. And the Land of Oz, which is not, I mean, it's big sets, and there are no stars really, because I'm sure Cynthia Erivo wasn't paid that much. Ariana wasn't paid that much because she's not a known, let's say, she doesn't box office in movies wise. She cannot ask for a big salary if she hasn't commanded any kind of screen presence that has provided a lot of box office before. So no, I'm sure that in that regard the stars weren't paid that much, and so no, it's John Chu. He does wonders with the film, but I'm sure he's not the biggest paid director in the world.
He's done big before, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it looks like a very well placed for the seasonal offerings, especially in the UK. We can have a kind of a pantomime season in the UK, so it kind of fits that box very well. But anywhere around the world, it's a good
Christmas
good film for the festive period. Right, next a documentary, I think, of Superman, and I'm guessing this is the Christopher Reeve Superman, who's for me the gold standard. James,
It's a
I'm guessing
documentary about Smallville.
a documentary
Well,
about Christopher
funny you
Reeve.
should say that, Richard, because when I went in, there was a mum with some young children. I was like, oh, cool, they've come to watch the Christopher Reeve documentary. They left about 45 minutes in because I think they thought it was a Superman film. And I think they hadn't checked.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's called Super/Man, the Christopher Reeve story. I think it's on HBO Max in the States. Had a limited theatrical release over here, although it's one of those ones where it started limited and then it seemed to be on the week after and the week after. So I think if enough people go to see these things, they'll keep them in cinema. And I mean, yeah, so you said it, Jason. He's sort of the original superhero, I suppose, if you discount the Batman TV series with Adam West. So 1978, is it? You get Superman the movie, starring Christopher Reeve, although he's kind of is his third build after Marlon Brando, Gene Hackman, because they sort of put stars around him. And went on to do 3 further films. He was then sadly paralyzed in a horse riding accident in about 1995, and sort of passed away in the probably about 2004, I think it was. So this film really just covers his life, has interviews with his 3 children, friends. So there's a few stars in here that you'll recognise who have done talking heads for this documentary. There's quite a bit of home video footage as well. I think a lot of these kind of documentaries, that's probably one of the things that might get them greenlit is, do we actually have any footage of this? And there is quite a lot of home life footage, pre the accident and post the accident as well. It covers his relationships with his father, his relationships with his partners. And yeah, it's really an interesting watch. There's not, I mean, Superman is obviously covered within it, but he's also looking at some of his other films, and he did a lot of films. And I come out of this saying, maybe these need to be reappraised. And then I thought, well, actually, some of these I think just need to be watched, because there is a moment where someone recalls going to see him in a theatre production, and there's a scene that he has a gay kiss in, and someone jumps up and shouts something about him being Superman, and you think, well, this is sort of the era where people and actors had to thought they had to stay in their lanes a bit. You know, if you're Superman, you can't go and do something else. And he did films with, I think, Michael Caine and some stuff that looks quite interesting. But I think maybe it just wasn't given the time of day back then, because people just saw him as Superman. There's little interviews about that as well, but that it really comes out that he cared about the character. There's an interview that they clip up. It might even be on UK TV where they're talking about, oh, so you worked with Marlon Brando. What was that like? And he's like, well, Marlon Brando took the check and ran, you know, which is sort of was his thing by the end of his career. But he really did care about this character, and also the sort of feeling that he probably didn't want to do Superman 4. He knew it was over, but there was sort of pressure to do it and financial pressures and things. The stuff with the accident, I mean, it's really, you know, it's sort of heartbreaking but inspiring as well that he kept on. Really sort of, yeah, just really sort of moving documentary. But it also isn't afraid to go into some stuff like he did an advert which is shown in there where, using early CG or CG in the sort of early noughties, he's seen as walking, and there was a big pushback from the disabled community saying, what are you saying with this advert? Like, you cured, like, but you know, so it wasn't afraid to get into that stuff. And the work that his children continue to do as part of the foundation. I mean, if you know the story, you know the story, but there's a moment in it where I just suddenly realised, a bit like with Three Identical Strangers, if you've seen that documentary, you suddenly go, hang on, I'm only seeing 2 of these guys. Why isn't the third one being interviewed? I didn't realise what had happened with Christopher Reeve's wife, and why she isn't in the documentary. And you know, that it's really sort of heartbreaking stuff. But it is overall, I come out feeling that was really inspiring. It's a really positive watch, and certainly if you're a fan of his work as Superman, it's like a must see, I'd say.
Yeah. So yeah, it does seem quite a deeply moving and personal story, but a lot of surprising, the candid access is given I think all the estates given to this documentary. But yeah,
Also,
it's good.
I must mention, sorry, that his relationship with Robin Williams is in it. So they were really big friends. And they short. I can't remember if it was like a couple of years after the accident, but he appeared at the Oscars and he appeared on stage. And Robin Williams was there helping him through a lot of this stuff, and that's all really interesting to see as well.
Yeah, they're a very long time buddies, especially when they're coming up as young actors. So, but yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword when you fit a role so well. I mean, and it still stands to this day. I don't think there's been really anyone still that has come close to that portrayal of that ultimate superhero. But yeah, maybe restricted roles as an actor in other things. But he was hopefully gives a bit of insight into him as a person as well. All right, thanks for that, James. Also, next you saw I was talking about prequels, I suppose. It's Paddington in Peru, which is, I guess, out already in the UK, or it did come out. I'm a bit surprised in time for the holiday season. It's the third. This is the third movie, I think, in in the Paddington universe, let's say, or the Padverse. Everything's a franchise nowadays. James, did it live up to expectations? Is it as good as the other two? I mean, it's several.
Why do you think I've seen this, Jason?
I
I'm a
don't
man.
know.
I'm a childless man in his 40s. Of course, I've seen Paddington 3.
Oh, sorry. For you, yes.
Yeah.
Your professional opinion on Paddington.
Yeah. So this is the follow up to obviously Paddington 1 and Paddington 2. Or Paddington and Paddington 2. Paddington 2 widely considered one of the best films, and it is, isn't it? Paddington 2, even if it's not your thing, it's absolutely perfect. It doesn't put a foot wrong. Hugh Grant is amazing in it. So the director of the original, I think, is Paul King. I can't remember. He's not on board for this one, and neither is the woman who plays the mum in the last one. So she's been replaced in this movie. It's okay. So Paddington travels to Peru to visit his beloved Aunt Lucy. You have in this film Antonio Banderas. So he turns up. He's sort of, in a way, the Hugh Grant type character in this, but you also have Olivia Colman in here. She's playing like a sassy woman, which I've never really seen her play before. And she plays that really well. So the cast are having a lot of fun. Brilliant CGI, lots of gags and stuff. My only and it is really good. There's lots of, I mean, they're in the trailer, but there's a moment in the trailer that has the Steamboat Bill Jr. moment from Buster Keaton when the house falls down. You know, that thing. They sort of do that with Paddington, and then they have a bit that references Raiders of the Lost Ark. So there's lots of little bits that reference other films in this for the cinephiles. And it is funny that the kids are obviously a lot more grown up in this one. Hugh Bonneville is back. It is, though. There's no way of saying it. It's the weakest of the three, and maybe taking Paddington out of London takes away some of the things that work about the original. But at the same time, it's like, what do you do? You can't do the same thing over and over, can you? So maybe going to do that was the right thing, to sort of do a different take on it. But we're in the holiday season now, so people want to see a big family film. Obviously, the sport for choice, really, with Wicked and Mufasa coming around, and this. But yeah, it's got the charm of the originals, and I'm sure there'll be a fourth one. I don't really know why a middle class family are allowed to keep a bear, but my mate Punchy Steve had to have his XL bully put down. But that's just how things work. So yeah.
Yeah, but there is a fourth one already in production.
Yeah,
actually, it's Studio Canal who is apparently producing this thing. The CEO of the French production company said that it's in the works, and they're also gonna do a Paddington the musical in the West End of London.
Oh,
I wonder who will be playing the bear.
I'm gonna.
Paddington from Rainbow. He's probably about.
Paddington Forever, it seems. Then, right?
That'll be the title of it. Paddington Forever.
Exactly. Yeah. Forever. Here you go, Jason. There you go.
Am I screwing?
I was right about Mission Impossible. I said it would be called Final Reckoning.
You were.
I wish I put money on it.
Yes.
Pretty obvious, though.
So you did say that. Now it's on record, right? Speaking of Hugh Grant, film I did catch. I did come out in November, so it was a bit of a while ago, but I did catch, and you saw it as well, James. That was Heretic. I just thought I'd mention that because I caught it fairly recently. Um, this Heretic is kind of like it's A24 actually who produced this. It's a story of like two Mormons girls who go on their little, I think, missionary work, or when they have a period of where they go from house to house and spread the word and come to the house of Hugh Grant. That turns into a kind of like a debate, but also kind of like horror overtones as they become, let's say, trapped in this house with Hugh Grant. You saw this, James. A24 is quite a high caliber, so you think, okay, this is worth a look. Did you think it was? I mean, Hugh Grant's pretty good in this, I think. When he's playing a bit more darker characters, which I think closer to his own persona, Omar. It's quite enjoyable. Did you like it or think it was like
I am completely alone on this. I know I'm alone. I didn't particularly like it. I found it a little bit boring. I actually saw the trailer and I thought that's not for me. A bit interesting seeing Hugh Grant in horror. That's not for me. The reviews come out. I was like, oh no, this looks like it's and I watched it and I was like, no, it was exactly the film I thought it was. It, it's all right. It's fine. I just think it's been a really strong year for horror. I also, I love Hugh Grant. He's a national treasure. He's amazing in Paddington 2. I don't like The Gentleman. He's brilliant in it. Also did a film, a TV series called, I think it's called A Very British Scandal, written by Russell T Davies, that he's very good in. And he's really been going into different areas. Everyone keeps saying how good he is in this, and he's fine. I think Sophie Thatcher's brilliant in it. But I just feel actually he's doing the old Hugh Grant, the sort of the Notting Hill Four Weddings character. But the twist is that the script is it's a horror film. So the kind of thing is he's accepted to do a horror film. But I don't feel like he's doing a particularly different performance. I might have got hung up on that point, but I never felt it. I mean, it is a horror as it goes on. I never really felt on edge. I never felt terrified, and I felt a little bit bored. But I am aware that people have really, really enjoyed it. But if he gets Best Actor, I'll be really annoyed. But I'll live.
I think it comes in like two halves. The first half is kind of like a little testing of belief systems and so forth, and he's kind of like really intellectually tests those who have become almost a blind faith. So, but yeah, you can see that I think from looking at a bit of an interview, because there was a lot of high praise around this, and I was like, yes, it's actually it's engaging. You can talk about it a bit afterwards because it has a bit of an ambiguous ending, and it's probably why it opens up a bit of a debate. But it does descend into a kind of this kind of like a bit of a reductive horror, kind of like almost
Feels like a
sort
very long Ricky Gervais tweet sometimes. I think if Ricky Gervais turned up, I might have enjoyed it more.
it's but I think it kind of like it's maybe American audiences are not so used to him being that kind of sinister. Maybe I mean I think
Well, like I say, I am alone on this. Not everybody else really likes it.
Well, this is it. It's a bit of a kind of like mix. I enjoyed the first half of it definitely because it was a very interesting psychological play, as in pushing their boundaries and with questions and conversations. It's more kind of like on that level. I thought it was really good. I think
you know what? When you just said the word "play," that actually to me that was the thing. It felt like a stage production a little bit. And actually, I think if you'd seen it as a stage production, you'd be, oh, that's pretty good. But it's all right.
Right, fine. Right, next. Richard, you saw Blitz. Is that right?
Yeah.
What is Blitz? I have no idea what this is about. So what is Blitz?
Okay.
Yeah.
So Blitz, it's the new movie by Steve McQueen. So not get confused with the actor. Steve McQueen.
He doesn't do a lot. He doesn't do a lot these days. Anyway,
Yeah, what's he up to
exactly. Yeah. It was a stupid joke. Sorry, but I agree. So Steve McQueen, who actually did pretty amazing movies so far in his career. Probably the most popular one is 12 Years a Slave, but he also done a few movies with his favorite actor, probably Michael Fassbender. Especially Shame, I think it's another underrated and unfortunately should be more known movie. Anyway, So Blitz, it's set in during World War II in London, and Blitz, the title is coming from Blitzkrieg, which it was the name or nickname of the kind of war that Germany was, or strategy that Germany was applying to war in Western Europe, especially, or Eastern Europe as well, which is a kind of a fast war or fast attack, let's say. If I have to translate literally. And in a way, it's true that Blitz works because Blitz means fast reaction. And in a way, it's a story of Londoners. So obviously, especially a family, but Londoners in general who always live on the edge during the World War II. Because, well, I will not teach an historical lesson, especially if there are British people listening. But obviously, during World War II, people in UK, especially in London, were under bombs because Hitler was trying to invade UK, and he never invaded UK, but so he thought actually that the only way actually to destroy UK was through the air. And every single day, every single night, you have those bombs dropping on the city, and there is no way to avoid those bombs, and the only way is to find shelter. And they find shelters anywhere they can, especially in the undergrounds. And the story is specifically here is about a kid and his mother, played by Saoirse Ronan. I'm sorry, nobody knows how to pronounce the name.
I don't know how to say Saoirse Ronan either.
Saoirse Ronan, whatever. Very good actress, nominated several times at the Oscars. Might get another nomination with this one. Not gonna win, because she has this DiCaprio syndrome where she's going to get 1,000 nominations before she dies, before getting an Oscar. And like many mothers during World War II, she plays this character who has to send her child away for protection, obviously, in the countryside. And this child who will try to find the name of the kid, who is pretty amazing in this movie, to be honest. This kid who is in a train full of kids sent away is actually jumping from the train and tries to get back to London, to get back to his mother. He's a kid, obviously doesn't care much about the war, etc. He just wants to be with his mother. His name is, Elliot Heffernan. Pretty amazing kid, because the movie is, as much as it is about focused, on Saoirse Ronan character, is focused on him as well, and he's let's say his journey towards his mom. So obviously, it's very emotional. Obviously, very relatable in a way, because you think, what would you do if you were a parent during these times? And on top of that, it's kind of visually stunning. I don't think the budget was very big, but at the same time, he knows how to direct a movie, this guy, especially the scenes at night, where actually obviously the fear might be the greatest, I guess, when you don't know what's happening in the sky above you, etc. Between the lights of the fire and the darkness of the street, I thought it was beautiful, and kind of oppressing as well. The scenes in the underground as well were you can imagine yourself in there. So yeah, it's very sometimes, well, all the time, quite emotional because of the family elements, and also about what happened to his father, etc. But of the kid's father, but also it is, I think, very well depiction of as an historical movie, and it's a shame that it's going under radar, that not many people have seen it. It is now on streaming service in France on Apple TV. By the way, I'm pretty sure it must be on Apple TV everywhere now if it's in France. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. We can't hear you. We can't hear you, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Yeah, I think I did see a few posters in the underground, but yeah, it was a bit under the radar considering Steve McQueen. I mean, the pedigree of stuff that he comes out with. Yeah, but worth watching. You also next. You did also see another film. Or I think the Seed of the Sacred Fig.
So yeah, I'm not surprised I'm the only one who's seen this one, because
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
What's
the
this
seed of the
about?
Sacred Pig is so it's very it works. It has a great box office success in France and in very small theaters. In major cinemas, there is absolutely nothing about this movie. But in little theaters with 50 or 60 seats, it's sold out. Every single screen is sold out for the last 4 weeks. I'm not even joking. It took me like I think, yeah, 2 weekends and 5 attempts, five tries to find a seat for this movie. So yeah, but it's just in small movie theaters. And I wanted to see it because I don't know if it's official or it will be official, but it will be actually nominated at the Oscars of foreign language as a German entry. Although it's a German entry, why? Because the director, who is Iranian, I think he fled to Germany, or he at least exiled to Germany, but he is Iranian, and the movie is in Iranian, in Farsi actually, and it is set. And the movie is it might be one of my favorite movie of the year because it's really well done. It's also because I'm biased. I'm also very interested in politics in general. So obviously that's why also I watched the movie. It's a bit long, I have to be honest. It's 2 hours 40 minutes, but sometimes you might feel it. I have to be honest. So it is set in Iran just a few years ago. You follow the very important social events through the spectrum, the eyes of one family, fictional family, but real events. The real events I'm talking about were when a student, female, one day was beaten, I think, to death in the streets by the Iranian police because she literally either removed a scarf or wasn't wearing the scarf properly in the street or whatever, like a stupid reason anyway. And yeah, she was beaten to death. And a majority of students, especially female students in the country, went to the streets and went to do some protests on the demonstrations. And it was like the first time in history of Iran, actually, that a whole generation, especially teenage girls, were doing that. And it went. It was great that they did that, but obviously the Iranian governments actually counterattacked, let's say, and it went kind of bloody and violently. And unfortunately, I've checked actually, but I'm not sure that the outcome in our world, the real world. Let's forget about the movie. I'm not sure actually the outcome was very positive because I don't think actually there was no real social benefits or advantage given to this generation after these riots. I think it went back to the statu quo. It went back to how it was before. So anyway, so yeah, the movie itself is it's set during those riots, and the family that the movie is about it's interesting choice by the director, the writer, who had to left the country because of what he's talking about, obviously. The father is a judge who works for the Iranian government, who obviously is on the side of the state. And he has two teenage daughters. And these two teenage daughters definitely, like the majority of teenage girls in Iran back then, have this sense of this will for freedom, this will for a better social life for all women in this country. And obviously, it's a clash of generations, a clash of ideologies, and at first, the first half of the movie is kind of a clash of ideologies in the streets with real footage and in the apartment of this family. And then the second half of the movie becomes kind of almost a thriller where the family is completely destroyed in a way, and it becomes a psychological thriller that is almost scary. I highly recommend this movie. It's not easy to watch sometimes, especially one scene after half an hour you will see. About talking about the effects on one particular woman, the effect of what the police does in the streets of Iran back in the day. So I think it's really worth your time.
Yes. I don't think we'll get that until next year, I think, in the UK.
Really?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
2025. Thanks, Richard. Right. Next, I think we'll just go through, I think, now a few recommendations that did come out this month that you might have missed. James, so you saw Piece by Piece. This is the Pharrell Williams biography, but in Lego form.
Yeah, so
Am I
actually
right?
the thing to bear in mind when you watch it is it did actually start as a documentary. So they actually filmed a lot of the contributors, the talking heads, before they even had the idea of doing this with Lego. So I think there's a moment where I worked that out in the film, but I think some people have been a bit baffled by it because they're like, well, nothing was happening in this bit. It's like, no, it literally is a documentary on his life. Um, and it takes you through from his childhood, sort of not fitting in very well, and then getting into music, and his early career, sort of producing for Mace and Noriega and Khalees in the late '90s, in fact, and then becoming part of his band NERD, and obviously he's had mega sort of hits in the 2010s with Get Lucky with Daft Punk and Happy from Despicable Me too. Um, I really enjoyed this. I thought it's a sort of odd way to do the film, although not that odd because we have had these Lego movies, and apparently Lego are just a partner in this. It isn't officially a Lego movie, but the animation style is similar to those, um, and it just sort of it does match his maybe eccentricity, so it does work, I think. And there's a few sort of like emotional moments when he's talking about his just talking about struggles that he has and just sort of his appreciation as well. There's a moment where he's talking about sort of everyone rooting for him, which I found really affecting. I know one of my friends saw this. He said, "Yeah, it's fine," but I think for me, because this was sort of the soundtrack of my late teens, 20s, and then has carried on, I kind of really connected with it. And I remember the first time hearing a track that he produced called Super Thug. It just jumped out the radio. I was like, "What the hell is this? I've never heard anything like this in my life." Um, and it was interesting hearing about the songwriting stories though. So it felt to me a bit like one of those documentaries that were on BBC Four in the UK on a Friday night if you're not going out. They just tell you some like interesting facts about songs that you might know. But if you're connected to the music, you'll probably get a bit more out of it. It's interesting as well the way that they get round certain things. So they show him recording in a studio with Snoop Dogg, and Snoop Dogg is known for using certain things in the studio to make him creative. Let's just say that. And because this is a PG movie, they can't really show that. So they come up with a different way of illustrating that, which you could hear laughs from the adults and the kids thinking, I don't understand what mum and dad are laughing. When I saw it as well, I know it sounds slightly ageist, but there was some very, very, very old people watching this film. I was like, fair play. I mean, I assume they like Happy, and that's why they can't. But when they're like maybe looking at the Noriega hip hop stuff, they're probably a little bit baffled by that. But yeah, it's really fun. It's only 90 minutes, and yeah, lots of songs I didn't realize he produced as well. So Hella Good by No Doubt, I didn't realize that was produced by him. So yeah, it's a fun one.
Thanks. Next, Conclave. I think that's just come out in the UK, but Andrew, you've seen that. I think this is Ralph Fiennes, is it? In a kind
Yeah.
of Vatican set. Is it a thriller or is it just about the selection process
Well,
of
it's drama. It might be considered somewhat of a thriller, I guess, but I would say it's more of a drama. I'm surprised it just got released there. I thought maybe some people had already seen it, but I guess, yeah, I don't know. It's been getting a lot of Oscar buzz, and it's been doing the festival circuit, so maybe that's what it is.
I saw it at the festival.
Right. Okay. So maybe that makes, yeah, it's getting the festival circuit, Oscar buzz, that kind of thing. We'll see what happens with that, but it's I know some jokes have been made about the film, like calling it Game of Popes or comparing it to Mean Girls. I guess there's like one scene in particular set in their cafeteria that they use that's kind of maybe makes people think that, but yeah. So what the plot is that it's a fictional setting. I mean, it's based off of stuff sort of that happened or happened in real life. It's a selection of a new pope, but basically in universe, in the movie, in universe, the Pope has died, and it's time to select a new Pope. And so this group of cardinals gets together to the conclave of the title gets together to vote on a new Pope. And the person in charge of getting stuff organized is Ralph Fiennes' character. And without giving too much away, a lot of what happens subsequently is the idea of almost like it's a political campaign, and it's not really supposed to be like an elected office or in terms of like what we think of in a political campaign type setting, but a lot of you get a sense that people are really jockeying for this position, and some more than others. And there's this one cardinal, I can't remember the actor's name, but I guess his character is supposed to be from Italy, and he's a bit more on the conservative side, even by the church's standards. And people are wary of him because they want to not move the church in that direction. But this guy's really jockeying for this position, and some others are as well. And during the course of the film, the course of the story, certain things come out about the different candidates or people seen as candidates for the new papacy. It's a good cast. Again, Ralph Fiennes, he's good. Stanley Tucci is in it, and he's pretty good. John Lithgow. Isabella Rossellini is in the film as one of the nuns who kind of helps out with the kitchen staff and helping out there. And she doesn't appear in the film that much, but she has some good scenes for what she has. And then there's some other actors I didn't really recognize their names. One who plays this cardinal from Nigeria, who's basically looking, possibly be the first pope from sub-Saharan Africa. I guess, because they've had popes long ago from North Africa. But and then there was another character. The actor's name is Carlos Diaz. I don't know how I pronounce his surname, but he's pretty good in it. But he's basically a cardinal from, I guess it's supposed to be Afghanistan, something. Anyway, it's a good cast, a good ensemble. But yeah, and a lot of twists and turns in the story, so you kind of get attached to it to see what happens. Without spoiling, I'll just say that ultimately something happens that, given current politics, it kind of makes you go, this is kind of an interesting thing. So how would this work out? So I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I thought it was. I don't know how it's going to play come award season, but yeah, it's definitely. I wouldn't have a problem with it getting some recognition. Don't know in which categories, but we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that was a decent film. Wouldn't really call it a thriller per se, though it does feel that way, or maybe just an intense drama, just in terms of all the revelations and things that come out of the various, you want to call them candidates for the papacy. So
yeah, there are things that things are revealed, and some popes get discarded because of cardinals that want to be the pope, the next pope. They have their own secrets, and everyone has secrets, and everyone wants to know the secrets of everyone.
There are, since you mentioned animals earlier in this discussion, there are turtles in the film. So,
God, I hope that's not related to the secrets.
No, and
Raphael becomes pope in the end.
There are, Edward Berger, I think it is called, the director who did All Quiet on the Western Front.
Right.
He does a very good. I mean, the shots are very nice. The music is quite impactful. So like it's well shot. Let's say it's nice. You can see the quality of. There are many of these. This is like your typical Oscar awardly kind of film from the outside. Now, when you get into the specifics of the story and what Andrew was saying in the end, that's another thing. But it's like another, let's say, entertaining time at the movies.
Okay. Fine. Thanks for that. Few other couple of just releases we might mention. Moana 2 did come out. Did anyone see that?
It's going to be tomorrow screening for me as well.
Tomorrow
Oh,
screening for
okay, yeah.
you.
I saw that, was it a couple of days ago, I think?
Yeah. Not bit of a mixed feeling about that from reviewers. I don't think it's been.
Really?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's kind of gotten mixed, sort of positive, not as good as the first one, but I mean, I saw it. I wasn't that crazy about it, but it was a pretty full audience, full cinema, and I guess they liked it. They applauded at the end. Assume they weren't being sarcastic, so I guess maybe for families, kids. I mean, I don't know if you know the whole backstory, real life about how this film kind of came together, but it wasn't something that was supposed to get a cinematic release. It was supposed to be a Disney Plus series. And relatively last minute, they said, "Well, we're going to release it in cinema." A lot of theories as to why that really that Disney made that decision, but it does feel like a little bit of a B team sequel. I think the first film's director is retired now, and then has, I guess, different writers. And Lin-Manuel Miranda, who did the music for the first movie, he's not back. It's actually different people.
Ah.
So the songs are all right, I guess, but they're not like they don't, like the previous film. So I just kind of found it almost boring, like a lot of the early film. It does pick up late in the film, and the climax. There's some really significant stuff that happens. And I guess at certain points, knowing the backstory of the film in real life context of, how this have worked as a streaming series versus how it works as a film in cinemas, I kind of was thinking, okay, would have been the first episode, and then this would have been the second episode. I mean, I don't know if that's exactly how it would work, just speculation, but I guess Disney wanted to have like a hit film in cinemas, especially after, stuff that happened last year with some of its films. So I will say that certain stuff, without giving spoilers, stuff happens late in the film that they're definitely trying to set up for a continuation of this franchise. And there is a mid-credits scene. And after seeing it, I had this joke in my mind that, well, I guess Disney maybe doesn't want MCU to stand for Marvel Cinematic Universe anymore. Maybe they want it to stand for Moana Cinematic Universe. So that's what.
That's good news for James. James hopes for Disney crossovers might happen.
Well, I don't really go that far. I just mean in terms of just the feel of this. It's sort of like from the other MCU to kind of do their own little thing with Moana and this. So I'll and I think part of it is also that Dwayne Johnson. I mean, not that I really want to see his work, but Dwayne Johnson isn't in the film as much. I mean, he appears much more in the later part of the film, or at least his character does. So maybe that's sort of why it felt a little bit slower in the earlier parts of the film. To give an idea just of the basic plot, it's been some time after the events of the previous film. Moana is now respected in her community on her island. She has a new younger sibling, a younger sister, or at least new in terms of that we haven't seen before, and some stuff happens, and then she has to go take care of it. But it takes a while for the story to get going, and then Maui, Dwayne Johnson character, is off doing his own thing that kind of becomes significant to the plot. There's some new characters who appear, and I mean, it's. I mean, I wasn't that crazy about it, but I guess families really like it, and maybe there's some stuff there that's all right. So we'll see what happens with this franchise. Maybe if they do Moana 3, it'll be a little bit better because, it'll be a cinematic project from the get-go instead of, streaming project.
Between them, there will be a live-action adaptation, isn't it?
Yes, but that's just a remake of the
first one.
Yeah. And Dwayne Johnson is going to be in that as well, I think, as Maui. But they're going to get someone more age appropriate, I guess, for playing the title character because Ali Cavallo
must be like 20 years old now.
Yeah, she's like in her 20s now. So she's actually doing Cabaret on Broadway right now. I guess playing Sally Bowles. And the current cast, her and Adam Lambert. So
she has a great voice.
Yeah.
It's so
Actually.
weird to see remakes of films that aren't so old when they do them live action. Like the other day when they released the How to Train Your Dragon live action film in the trailer. That's so weird because that
It's
movie
so
is
weird.
not so old. It's just and the dragon is the same, but it's not so different to do with CGI or animation when it's
I agree.
exactly the same dragon.
Yeah, what's the point? Yeah.
Make money. Make money.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I hope Moana now gets part of her universe and becomes part of the Avengers eventually, or whatever she does.
Well,
But
that would be pretty interesting.
yeah, I'm sure she can command many creatures of the sea and lots of civilizations. It seems now like civilizations. She gets around knowing people in different islands, I guess.
Maybe actually when Disney buys Warner Bros, she can do a join DC and with Aquaman, etc.
Well, and the Shazam universe,
Shazam,
getting Dwayne Johnson in double role.
Black Adam.
Black Adam as well.
Yes, exactly. Black Adam.
By the way, what you were saying about the fact that it was released on cinema and not on streaming, and they chose the last minute. Well, even if it was a last minute decision or it was, but it seems to be working because it was released in November 27, it says in United States, and kind of similar in France. I'm guessing in many countries.
Countries like New Zealand, it's doing very well.
Yeah, and it's killing it. Almost 200 million in 4 days.
To answer James's question, I think the decision was made sometime earlier this year, and I mentioned that because originally what was supposed to happen is Wicked was, because Wicked kept changing its release dates because of the strikes and other things. Eventually, they settled on November 27th. So Wicked was going to come out November 27th. And then earlier this year, Disney said that, this streaming or whatever project, whatever Moana 2 or whatever it was, they said, okay, now we're going to release it as Moana 2. We're going to release it in cinemas, and we're going to release it on November 27th. And Universal was like, we can't have our film go up against Disney's big film on the same day. So that kind of led Universal to kind of figure out, what are we going to do now? And so then they kind of moved it up to earlier in the month, but not by much. And that was the same weekend that in the US, I'm talking about, Gladiator 2 was being released. So it's just kind of this weird situation. And that's why I remember it being kind of relatively late, because you don't usually make that kind of announcement.
I was wondering if it was to do with Inside Out 2, because obviously that's the biggest film of the year and sort of seemed to surpass expectations. Is there maybe something, but I don't know if that was too late, because that's not that long ago, Inside Out 2.
For that. But no, because usually you make these decisions like at least a year in advance, if not more than that. And this was made less than that. So it kind of leads people to believe that what happened was that Wish, which is supposed to be the big film that got released exactly a year ago this time, way underperformed. And Disney, I guess, needed a hit. Wish underperformed massively. The Marvels underperformed massively. And so Disney was like, we need a big hit. And then some of their big hits that were going to get released this year got pushed back to next year. Like, I can't remember, like the Snow White or Elio, got pushed back because of the strikes or other issues. So they kind of needed a hit. I mean, they have Mufasa coming out next month, but, they wanted something for the U.S. Thanksgiving weekend. It was just a combination of things. So usually you don't wait until like several months before to make the decision, but I guess they wanted something in cinemas to.
It is a big hit. I mean, it's even if
it's a huge hit.
Yeah, they did it.
It paid off.
The absolutely right decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's the highest ever box office results on a preview night for Walt Disney ever.
Wow,
that's crazy.
Well, it paid off. What can I say? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So
I think maybe as well. Maybe we're sort of out of the period now of. There was a lot of like me and Alfonso were talking about like the Narnia film that's coming out that Greta Gerwig's going to do, and obviously they do want to. Netflix big thing is they want you to get Netflix, right? So they don't want to give those films away, but they made sort of an exception for Matilda last year or the year before in the UK, so that got a big sort of release and it did really, really well in cinemas. Maybe now because these streamers they're always fighting to keep subscriptions, but they're people do have Netflix, people do have Disney Plus. Maybe they're now like, oh my God, we've neglected the cinema. We need to get people back there a little.
It makes sense for Netflix specifically to release their films in cinemas, at least some films that they think are going to do well in cinemas. Why not take advantage of the other window? I mean, you want to be Netflix.
You can play on both sides. You can play on both
they
sides.
want to be they built their company on the fact that they had exclusive content. I get it, but things have changed. People, there are more streamers, and it just makes sense to make use of the whole window. It's gonna be your film in the end. You're gonna have it.
Yeah, they need to maybe make it more of a song and dance about when it goes on streaming, because Disney do that, don't they? Like Deadpool Wolverine is in cinemas, and when it drops on Disney Plus, you know about it because every time you click on a YouTube video, it's telling you it's on Disney Plus now. But Netflix don't really do that, probably because they don't have long enough for it to be in cinemas for them to do that. But there's the opportunity. It's not like Disney are holding those films back for months. If you wait a month and a half, I think they might have extended it a bit, but it will be on there, won't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, these things are going to be on Disney Plus eventually. But the thing is that sometimes Disney Plus streamers can work in a way that you don't anticipate. Like instead of having stuff just go directly to streaming, or have people be like, oh, streaming exclusive, whatever, is you have certain films that people wouldn't necessarily think to watch otherwise, and discover it on streaming, and then the franchise picks up that way. I say that because of Moana. It was pretty good. It did pretty well when it first came out back in 2016. But the reason it's become such a success, that franchise, is because a lot of people watched it on Disney Plus even before this got announced, the sequel, whatever. And so it's become very popular on Disney Plus, those who maybe didn't get a chance to watch in cinemas several years ago. And now you see that with the sequel in cinemas, that people are like, oh, I really like watching on Disney Plus, and now I want to see the sequel in cinemas.
Yeah, actually, kids, I'm sure they flocked toward it.
You didn't used to get too many of those sequels from Disney. They were sort of very few and far between. Like Toy Story was the first one to go to 3. Incredibles took years to do a sequel to. Monsters Inc. There wasn't many of them, but now it feels like we're past that. They're just going to keep. We're in the IP era, aren't we?
Yeah, well, they used to do a lot of them back in the 90s and the 2000s, but they went direct home video. It wasn't streaming back then. So that was like a thing, direct to home video. And now
they did Aladdin 2, but not with Robin Williams, with the guy who does Homer's voice from The Simpsons. Yeah.
Peter Pan 2, the Little Siren 2, all of these DVDs for children. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks, guys. That was quite a, I think, crowded latter half of the month, actually, leading up to the end of the year. Thanks to usual hosts, Alfonso, Andrew, James, and Richard. And for you at home, till next time, see you then.
We hope you enjoyed this film and TV Review.com episode. Catch the latest film and TV reviews, together with regular episode content from the world of film and TV every week. See you soon. Would you like to reach our film and TV review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today.